Worry is like carrying a heavy burden that was never yours to bear. It clings to your mind, pulling you away from the only moment that truly exists, the present. The Buddha reminded us, peace comes from within, do not seek it without. And he also taught, if a problem can be solved, there is no need to worry. If it cannot be solved, worrying will not help. Yet most of us look for peace in a secure future, believing that if everything works out as planned, only then can we feel safe. This is why worry takes such a strong hold. It convinces us that peace depends on controlling what has not yet happened. But the truth is, the more we feed worry, the more it consumes our clarity, our focus, and our joy. In the rush of daily life, we forget these timeless truths and allow endless what-if thoughts to dominate our minds until we can no longer see clearly. Today, we will uncover 7 powerful Buddhist lessons to help you break free from the grip of worry so you can live with clarity, freedom, and unshakable inner happiness. 1. Accept that worry solves nothing. The first and most important step in breaking free from the chains of worry is to face a simple but powerful truth. Worry produces nothing of real value. It does not protect you from danger, it does not guarantee a better outcome, and it certainly does not prepare you in any meaningful way. All worry truly does is steal your time, drain your energy, and cloud your mind so you can no longer think clearly. Many people confuse worry with care or responsibility. They believe that if they stop worrying, they are somehow neglecting their duties or showing that they do not care enough. But this is a misunderstanding. Caring for something means taking wise and thoughtful action when it is needed. Worrying is merely running in mental circles, going nowhere, exhausting yourself in the process. Think about it. Has worry ever directly solved a problem for you? Has it ever built a bridge, healed a wound, or created a solution? Or has it only made you lose sleep, overthink, and feel powerless? In Buddhist practice, we are reminded that every moment spent in worry is a moment stolen from truly living. It is like holding a heavy stone all day, thinking it will somehow make your journey safer, when in reality it only slows you down and hurts your hand. When you truly understand this truth, not just with your mind, but with your heart, you begin to let go of the habit of feeding worry with your attention. You see it for what it is, a thief disguised as a friend. You realize that you can face life's challenges far better when your mind is calm, grounded, and focused, rather than tangled in fear. A calm mind makes wise decisions. A worried mind makes panicked ones. Accepting that worry solves nothing is not about being careless. It is about freeing yourself from useless mental suffering so you can respond to life with clarity and strength. Lesson 2. Anchor yourself in the present moment. Worry cannot survive in the present. It only lives in imagined futures. This is why Buddhism teaches that the only true refuge is the now. The present moment is the only place where life is actually happening, yet most of us spend the majority of our time mentally somewhere else, replaying the past, fearing the future, running endless what-if scenarios in our head. We think that by constantly scanning the horizon of tomorrow, we will somehow feel safer. But in truth, all this does is disconnect us from the one thing we actually have, the here and now. The Buddha compared the mind to a restless monkey leaping from branch to branch. When we allow it to jump into the future, it finds 1,000 imagined dangers. But when we bring it back to the present, it begins to calm. This is why mindfulness practice is at the very heart of Buddhist wisdom. It trains the mind to stop wandering aimlessly and return to the ground beneath your feet. Whenever you feel worry rising, pause for a moment. Take 3 slow, deep breaths. Feel the air entering and leaving your body. Notice the sensation of your feet touching the floor, the texture of the air around you, the sounds that exist in this very moment. This simple act is powerful because it reminds your mind where it belongs. The future you fear does not exist right now. It is only a thought. And if it is only a thought, you have the choice to put it down. In Buddhist meditation, we often use the breath as an anchor. Just as a boat remains steady when anchored, the mind becomes steady when it is tied to the present through awareness. The storms of life may still come, but you will not drift helplessly into the ocean of fear. Instead, you stand firm in the clarity and peace of now. The more often you practice returning to the present, the easier it becomes. Over time, you will notice that worry has less and less room to grow, because your mind no longer leaves the safe harbor of the present moment for long journeys into imagined tomorrows. Anchoring yourself in the now does not mean ignoring the future. It means living with such deep presence that when the future does arrive, you are prepared to meet it with strength and calmness instead of fear. This is the gift of mindfulness. It removes you from the prison of what might be and returns you to the freedom of what is. Lesson 3. Replace what if with even if. If you carefully listen to the voice of worry inside your head, you will notice that it almost always begins the same way, with two small words. What if? What if I fail? What if I get sick? What if I lose my job? What if they leave me? What if things never get better? These questions may seem innocent at first, but in reality, they are like tiny cracks in a dam. The moment you allow one what-if thought to enter unchecked, more begin to pour in, and soon you are flooded by an endless stream of imagined disasters. The mind loves to play this game because it gives you the illusion of control. If you think through every possible bad outcome, maybe you can avoid it. But in truth, this habit only traps you in fear. Buddhism teaches us that what if is the root of much unnecessary suffering. It takes you away from the present moment and drags you into a future that does not exist yet. Worse, it is usually a future shaped by fear, not by reality. You begin to suffer for events that may never even happen. It is like paying interest on a debt you might never owe. This is the tragedy of what if. You lose your peace today over something that isn't real. To break this cycle, you must train the mind to shift from what if to even if. At first glance, it seems like a small change in language, but it is far more than that. It is a complete change in perspective. What if says, I cannot handle it if this bad thing happens. Even if says, no matter what happens, I will find the strength to face it. This is a declaration of inner power. It is you standing firmly in the knowledge that life can never bring you something you cannot grow through. Let's see how this works in practice. Instead of, what if I fail? You say, even if I fail, I will learn from the experience and try again. Instead of, what if people judge me? You say, even if they do, it will not define my worth. Instead of, what if things change for the worse? You say, even if they do, I will adapt and keep going. Every time you replace what if with even if, you are cutting worry off at its root. You are telling your mind, I refuse to live in fear. I choose resilience. Buddhist practice reminds us that life is impermanent and unpredictable. Change will come. This is certain. You cannot stop the waves of change, but you can learn to surf them. Worry is an attempt to freeze the ocean, to make life predictable, but this will never work. Even if accepts the waves and says, I trust myself to ride them. It is the mindset of the strong, the calm, and the free. This is not about pretending that bad things will never happen. It is about trusting that when they do, you will still stand. Think back on your life. You have already faced moments you thought you would never survive. And yet, here you are, stronger than before. That is proof that you can meet tomorrow's challenges when they come. You do not need to live them in advance. In meditation, we often visualize possible challenges and see ourselves handling them with wisdom and composure. This builds a kind of mental muscle, a deep inner knowing that says, Even if the worst happens, I will be okay. Once you start believing this, worry begins to lose its grip on you. Instead of shrinking back from life's uncertainties, you step into them with quiet confidence. And here is the beautiful part. Once you stop fearing uncertainty, you stop feeding worry. Life becomes lighter. You begin to experience the freedom that comes from trusting yourself, trusting the present, and trusting that whatever the future holds, you will meet it with strength. Lesson 4. Limit your mental diet. Just as your body becomes what you feed it, your mind becomes what you feed it. If you eat only unhealthy food, your body will grow weak, sluggish, and sick. In the same way, if you constantly feed your mind with fear, negativity, and endless information overload, your mental state will suffer. You will feel anxious, restless, and unable to find peace. Buddhism teaches that the mind is like a fertile field. Whatever seeds you plant there will grow. If you plant seeds of fear, doubt, and comparison, do not be surprised when worry grows wild. But if you plant seeds of calm, compassion, and clarity, you will harvest peace. The problem is that in today's world, most of us are unintentionally feeding our minds junk all day long. We wake up and immediately scroll through social media, where we compare ourselves to others and take in a flood of opinions, conflicts, and drama. We consume endless news headlines that focus on disaster, danger, and division. We binge-watch content that stimulates anxiety rather than calms it. We listen to people who constantly complain, gossip, or magnify every small problem into a catastrophe. Then we wonder why we cannot stop worrying. Buddhist mindfulness encourages us to become aware of what we are feeding our minds, just as carefully as we are aware of what we feed our bodies. Imagine if you started your day by pouring a bucket of muddy water into a clear pond. How could you expect the water to remain pure? Every piece of negative content you consume is like a handful of mud thrown into your mind. The more you do it, the harder it becomes to see clearly. Worry thrives in a mind that is already clouded. Limiting your mental diet means being intentional about the information, energy, and ideas you allow in. It does not mean ignoring the world completely or pretending bad things do not happen. Rather, it means creating healthy boundaries so that your mental space is not constantly invaded by noise that fuels anxiety. Just as you would not invite strangers to throw trash into your home, you must not allow harmful information and toxic voices to dump their waste into your mind. One powerful practice is to create information fasting periods. Just as fasting gives your body rest from constant digestion, information fasting gives your mind rest from constant stimulation. This could mean starting your day without looking at your phone for the first hour. It could mean setting a rule that you do not consume news more than once a day. It could mean unfollowing or muting people who fill your feed with negativity. It could mean limiting the time you spend with people who constantly complain and drain your energy. This is not about being antisocial, it is about protecting your mental clarity. In Buddhist teachings, there is a concept called right speech. But it is not just about what you say, it is also about what you listen to. If you constantly listen to gossip, criticism, and fear-based narratives, your mind will be shaped by them. Worry feeds on repetition. The more you hear something, the more your mind treats it as truth. This is why it is so important to surround yourself with voices and messages that encourage calm, perspective, and wisdom. Limiting your mental diet also means intentionally adding nourishing mental food. Just as a healthy body needs fresh fruits, vegetables, and clean water, a healthy mind needs uplifting reading, inspiring conversations, and moments of silence. Listen to teachings that help you grow rather than ones that keep you in fear. Read books that expand your perspective instead of narrowing it. Spend time in nature, where your senses can rest and your mind can breathe. Engage in meditation, where the constant mental chatter can finally settle. Another key point is to become mindful of mental snacking. Just as mindless eating can lead to poor health, mindless consumption of information can lead to poor mental health. Notice when you reach for your phone out of habit, not need. Notice when you keep checking the same news or social media feeds, even though nothing truly new is happening. Every one of those moments is like eating an empty calorie snack. It fills you for a second, but leaves you emptier than before. Buddhism also reminds us that what you feed your mind before bed is especially powerful. The final thoughts and images you take in often echo in your subconscious during sleep. If you spend your last waking moments reading about disaster or scrolling through other people's seemingly perfect lives, you are planting seeds of anxiety that will grow overnight. Instead, end your day with a nourishing mental meal. Read a page of a meaningful book, reflect on what you are grateful for, or simply sit quietly and breathe. Remember this truth. You cannot control everything that happens in the world, but you can control how much of it you allow into your inner world. Your mind is your sacred space. It is where your peace is built, or where it is destroyed. Limiting your mental diet is not about escaping reality. It is about refusing to let the worst parts of the world set up camp in your thoughts. It is about giving yourself the mental clarity to see problems for what they are, without drowning in them. When your mental diet is clean and balanced, worry naturally begins to fade. The mind becomes clearer, the heart becomes lighter, and life begins to feel less overwhelming. You realize that much of the anxiety you used to feel was not about your actual life. It was about the constant noise you were consuming. By limiting that noise, you make room for peace. In the end, the quality of your life will always reflect the quality of what you feed your mind. Protect it. Nurture it. Choose mental food that strengthens you, not fear that weakens you. When you master your mental diet, you will find that the grip of worry loosens, and your happiness is no longer stolen by things that do not truly matter. Lesson 5. Focus on what you can control. One of the greatest sources of worry is trying to control the uncontrollable. We think that if we could just manage every detail of life, if we could make sure nothing goes wrong, then we would finally feel safe. But life has never worked that way, and it never will. No matter how much you plan, prepare, or predict, there will always be variables beyond your reach. This truth is not a punishment, it is simply the nature of existence. In Buddhism, we learn that suffering is born when we cling to what is beyond our grasp. Peace comes when we release that grip and focus only on what truly belongs to us. Our actions, our choices, our responses. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean, trying to stop the waves with your hands. The harder you try, the more the waves crash against you, leaving you exhausted and frustrated. This is exactly what happens when you try to control people, events, or outcomes that are not in your hands. You can influence them, yes, but you cannot command them. Life will keep moving, like the ocean, with or without your permission. The wisdom lies in turning away from the impossible task of stopping the waves and instead learning how to swim, how to ride the currents, and how to navigate the waters as they are. Buddhism divides the world into two spheres, the sphere of control and the sphere of no control. The sphere of control is small but powerful. It contains your words, your actions, your intentions, your attitude, your effort. The sphere of no control is vast. It contains the weather, the economy, the choices of others, the passing of time, the unfolding of the future. Worry thrives when you spend your energy in the second sphere, trying to solve problems that do not have solutions because they are not yours to solve. The path to peace begins when you place your attention fully in the first sphere and let go of the rest. This does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become passive. It means you act where action matters and release where release is wise. If you are worried about your health, you can control what you eat, how you move, how you rest, but you cannot control every illness or outcome. If you are worried about a relationship, you can control how you speak, how you listen, how you show up, but you cannot control the other person's feelings or choices. If you are worried about the future, you can control how you prepare, how you save, how you learn, but you cannot control the twists and turns life will inevitably bring. By focusing on what you can control, you move from helplessness to empowerment. Buddhist mindfulness trains us to constantly ask, is this in my control? When the answer is no, the practice is to let go. Letting go is not giving up. It is simply refusing to waste your life wrestling with shadows. It is choosing to direct your energy where it can actually make a difference. This choice lightens the heart and clears the mind. One of the great teachers once said, "Worry is the interest we pay on events that might never happen." When you focus on what is beyond your control, you are paying that interest every single day, with your peace, with your joy, with your health. But when you focus on what you can control, you stop bleeding energy into the void. You reclaim the power that was always yours. This mindset shift is especially important when dealing with people. You cannot control whether others approve of you, understand you, or treat you as you wish. But you can control your integrity, your kindness, and your boundaries. You cannot control how people speak to you, but you can control how you respond, or whether you respond at all. You cannot control whether they love you, but you can choose to love yourself. The more you focus on these truths, the less power other people have to disturb your inner state. Another important point is that when you focus only on what you can control, you begin to see results faster. This is because your energy is no longer scattered. You are no longer half fighting battles in other people's territory. You are standing firmly on your own ground, strengthening your position. This is how real change happens, not by trying to control the entire world, but by steadily mastering your small, sacred corner of it. In Buddhist practice, this is why meditation is so central. Meditation is the art of returning again and again to what is here, now, and within your influence, your breath, your awareness, your posture, your focus. The outside world may still swirl in chaos, but in that quiet space, you realize that you have something unshakable, the ability to meet each moment with clarity and compassion. One of the most liberating realizations you will ever have is this: you do not have to have control to have peace. You do not have to know exactly how life will unfold to live it well. The future will come whether you worry about it or not. The storms will pass whether you try to push them away or simply take shelter until they move on. When you stop demanding control over the uncontrollable, you begin to feel a strange and beautiful freedom, the freedom to live fully in the only time you ever truly have, this moment. Focusing on what you can control is not just a technique to reduce worry. It is a way of living. It makes you lighter, calmer, and stronger. It allows you to take action without being paralyzed by the fear of results. It teaches you to do your best and then release the rest. And it reminds you over and over that peace does not come from controlling life. It comes from controlling your own mind. So the next time worry takes hold of you, pause and ask, is this mine to carry? Is this within my control? If it is, take action with courage. If it is not, set it down and walk away. This simple practice will save you countless hours of mental struggle and open the door to a kind of peace you may not have thought possible. Because in the end, life is not about controlling every wave. It is about learning to surf. And that is something you can control. 6. Give your worry a deadline. One of the most damaging things about worry is how it can stretch on endlessly. A single anxious thought can linger in the mind for hours, days, even weeks, repeating itself over and over like a broken record. And the longer it stays, the more it grows. A small worry can turn into an overwhelming storm simply because you've given it unlimited time and space in your mind. In Buddhist practice, we learn that just as we manage our time for work, rest and relationships, we must also manage the time we give to our thoughts, especially the heavy, troubling ones. If you do not put limits on worry, it will take as much of your life as you are willing to hand over. The idea of giving your worry a deadline is simple yet powerful. You allow yourself a set period to think about the issue, feel the concern, and perhaps make a plan. But when that time is up, you consciously release it and return to the present. You are no longer letting worry run wild in your mind. Instead, you are putting it in a container, a clear boundary that prevents it from spilling into every hour of your day. This is not about pretending the problem doesn't exist. It's about protecting your mental space so that your life is not consumed by endless rumination. Think of it like scheduling a meeting with your worry. Instead of letting it interrupt you whenever it wants, you tell it, "I will give you 15 minutes at 6 p.m., but until then, you will wait." In that scheduled time, you allow yourself to think through the issue, write down possible solutions, or even simply acknowledge your fears. But once the timer ends, you deliberately set it aside and focus on something else. By doing this, you train your mind to stop chewing on the same thought all day. This practice works because the mind loves structure. Without limits, thoughts can spiral endlessly. But when you place boundaries around worry, you regain a sense of control over your inner world. It's a reminder that you are the master of your mind, not the other way around. In Buddhism, this is very similar to the concept of mindful awareness, recognizing what is happening inside you, holding it with compassion, and then gently releasing it. Many people resist this idea at first. They think, "But if I stop thinking about my problem, I might forget something important, or I won't be prepared." Yet the truth is that constant worrying does not improve preparation. It only drains the energy you need to prepare effectively. You cannot think clearly when you are mentally exhausted. By giving worry a deadline, you are actually sharpening your mind because you are keeping it fresh and focused, rather than running it into the ground with endless repetition. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're worried about an important meeting at work. Normally, you might spend the entire day replaying worst-case scenarios in your head, unable to concentrate on anything else. But with this method, you might say, "I will think about the meeting at 5 p.m. for 20 minutes. Until then, I will focus on my tasks." You might even jot down quick notes throughout the day if something important comes to mind. But you don't dwell on them until the scheduled time. Then, at 5 p.m., you review your notes, prepare what you can, and when the time is up, you shift your attention to something else. The meeting is still coming, but it no longer owns your entire day. Buddhism teaches that most of our suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from the way we hold on to them. By giving worry a deadline, you loosen that grip. You acknowledge that yes, this concern is real, but it is not the whole of your life. You are creating space between yourself and your anxious thoughts, which is where peace can breathe. It's also important to combine this practice with mindfulness techniques. When you release the worry after the set time, anchor yourself in the present moment. Go for a walk, focus on your breath, listen to calming music. Engage in an activity that absorbs your attention. This creates a mental shift that tells your mind, "We are done thinking about this for now." The more consistently you do this, the more your brain learns to respect the boundaries you set. Over time, you may even find that your scheduled worry sessions get shorter and shorter. This is because much of what you worry about does not actually need hours of your attention. It only feels that way when you let it run unchecked. By compressing it into a small window, you quickly realize how much unnecessary thinking you were doing. You see that many worries dissolve when they are not constantly fed with your attention. There is another deeper layer to this practice. When you put a time limit on worry, you are also acknowledging the impermanence of thoughts. In Buddhism, we recognize that no feeling, no thought, no state of mind lasts forever. Worry only feels endless when you keep picking it back up. But when you set it down, it fades on its own. Giving worry a deadline is a way of actively setting it down. Think of the mind like a house. Worry is like a visitor who keeps showing up uninvited, taking up space in your living room, eating your food, and refusing to leave. If you let it, it will live there permanently. But when you say, you can visit at this time, and only for this long, you take back your home. Your mind is your sacred home. You decide who gets to stay and for how long. This practice can be life-changing if you truly commit to it. Instead of living in a constant haze of fear and what-ifs, you live in clarity, with short, focused moments of problem-solving rather than endless spirals of anxiety. You begin to trust that you don't need to be thinking about something every minute of the day in order to handle it well. You discover that you have the strength to face challenges without letting them steal your peace. In the end, giving your worry a deadline is about reclaiming ownership of your mind. It is about telling yourself, I will face what I must, but I will not let it consume me. It's about remembering that life is made of moments, and each moment spent drowning in worry is a moment stolen from living. When you set limits on worry, you are not ignoring life's problems. You are protecting your ability to meet them with wisdom, calm, and strength. 7. Trust the process of life. One of the greatest burdens we carry as human beings is the desperate need to know how everything will turn out. We want certainty in our careers, in our relationships, in our health, in every corner of our lives. We want the universe to hand us a written guarantee that if we work hard, love deeply, and make good choices, everything will unfold exactly as we hope. But life does not work this way, and that is where much of our worry is born, in the gap between the life we want to control and the reality that will always unfold in its own time and way. In Buddhist practice, there is a deep understanding that life is a process, a constant, ever-changing flow. It is not a fixed destination you arrive at and declare finished. It is more like a river that you are traveling upon. Some days the waters are calm and gentle, carrying you effortlessly forward. Other days they are turbulent and rough, and you must paddle with all your strength just to stay upright. But whether calm or stormy, the river always moves forward. Life's current never stops. And our role is not to control the river, for that is impossible, but to learn to move with it, to trust its course, to believe that it will take us exactly where we need to go, even when we cannot yet see what lies around the bend. Trusting the process of life does not mean blind optimism. It does not mean pretending that everything is perfect or refusing to acknowledge pain and hardship. It means knowing in your bones that everything, even the challenges you did not ask for, has a role in shaping you into the person you are meant to become. In Buddhism, suffering itself is a teacher. It carves depth into the soul, it sharpens wisdom, it awakens compassion. If we are willing to see beyond our immediate discomfort, we often find that the very experiences we once tried to avoid are the ones that grow us the most. The problem is that worry makes us impatient. We want answers now. We want resolution today. We want to skip the uncertainty and leap straight to the happy ending. But life does not hand us the entire map at once. It gives us only the step we are on. And worrying about the steps ahead does not make them arrive faster. It only makes you stumble where you are. Trusting the process is the choice to walk the path you are on with an open heart, even without knowing exactly where it leads. Consider a seed buried deep in the soil. In the darkness, it has no proof that the sun is waiting above. It cannot see the day when it will break through the surface and stretch toward the light. Yet it does not resist its journey. It simply does what it is meant to do. It grows. Slowly, invisibly at first, it begins to push its way upward. And in time, without rushing, it emerges into the open air, transformed into something greater. This is the process of life. You are the seed. There will be times when you cannot see the outcome, when everything feels buried and uncertain. But trust that growth is still happening, even when you cannot see it. Buddhist teachings remind us that control is an illusion. We do not control the timing of the rain or the blooming of the flowers. We do not control when people enter or leave our lives. We do not control the rise and fall of fortune. What we can control is our trust in the unfolding, our willingness to meet life as it is, rather than demanding it be something else. When you place your trust in the process, you are no longer battling against life's natural rhythms. You are working with them, and that alignment brings a profound peace. This trust is especially important in times of loss or disappointment. When something you deeply wanted does not happen, it is easy to believe life has betrayed you. But often, what feels like a loss is simply a redirection. In the moment, it hurts. But years later, you may look back and see that the path you were forced onto was the very one that led you to where you truly belonged. Trusting the process means believing that even in your darkest chapters, life is still working for you, not against you. Of course, trust does not come automatically. It is a practice, something you strengthen over time. In Buddhism, meditation is one of the most powerful tools for cultivating this trust. When you sit in stillness, watching your breath, you begin to notice that every inhale is followed by an exhale. Every wave of thought eventually passes. Every feeling rises and falls. This constant flow becomes a reminder that nothing is permanent. Not fear, not pain, not joy, not even worry. Everything is part of a larger cycle. And when you see this clearly, it becomes easier to release your grip and let life carry you forward. One way to build this trust is to look back at your own life. Remember the times you thought you would never make it through, the heartbreaks, the failures, the challenges that felt impossible, and yet here you are. You made it. You survived. In fact, you may even see now how those very struggles shaped your strength, your resilience, your wisdom. This is evidence that you can trust the process because it has already proven itself to you over and over. Trusting the process does not mean you stop acting. It means you act with faith instead of fear. You still take steps toward your goals, but you no longer demand that every step look exactly the way you imagined. You remain open to life surprising you, to plans shifting, to endings becoming beginnings. You let go of the exhausting need to micromanage the universe, and instead you do your part and allow life to do the rest. The truth is, the more you trust, the lighter you feel. Worry clings to the need for control. Trust releases it. Worry says, I must know now. Trust says, I will know when it is time. Worry says, I can't handle what's ahead. Trust says, whatever comes, I will find a way. This shift in mindset is the bridge from anxiety to peace. In the end, trusting the process of life is not just a technique, it is a way of living. It is the recognition that your life is not a series of random events, but a meaningful journey with lessons and gifts hidden in every turn. It is the courage to keep walking even when the path is unclear, knowing that every step is part of something greater. It is the faith that no matter what happens, you have the inner strength to meet it. And it is the deep, unshakable peace that comes from knowing you do not have to have all the answers to live a beautiful, fulfilling life. So release the need to control every outcome. Let go of the obsession with knowing what will happen next. Stand in the present, take the next step, and trust that the river of life will carry you exactly where you need to be, because it always has, and it always will. 8. Let go and live light. At the heart of almost all worry lies a heavy grip, the tight fist of holding on too hard to outcomes, people, possessions, and identities. This grip is born from the fear that if we loosen it, we will lose something vital. We think, if I stop holding on so tightly, everything will fall apart. But in truth, the opposite is often what happens. The more tightly we cling, the more life resists us. The more we grasp, the more exhausted and suffocated we feel. Buddhism teaches that clinging is one of the deepest causes of suffering because it binds us to constant fear, fear of loss, fear of change, fear of the unknown. And worry feeds on that fear like a parasite. To live light means to loosen that grip. It means learning to let go of the obsessive need to control, to predict, to possess. It means accepting that nothing in life is truly ours to keep forever. The people we love, the places we live, the roles we play, all of these are temporary companions on the journey. This truth may sound heavy at first, but it is actually the source of incredible freedom. When you stop clinging, you stop living in constant anxiety about what you might lose. You begin to appreciate what you have right now without needing to cage it in the illusion of permanence. Think about water in your hands. If you cup it gently, you can hold a small amount for a time. But if you try to squeeze it tightly, it slips through your fingers faster. Life is like this. The more we try to lock it in place, the quicker it seems to escape us. But when we hold it lightly, with open palms, we can feel its presence fully in the moment, without the torment of fear. This doesn't mean becoming careless or indifferent. Letting go is not the same as giving up. It's about shifting from force to flow. You still care deeply about the people and things in your life, but you are no longer enslaved by the desperate need to control how they unfold. You understand that love without clinging is stronger because it is free. Work without obsession is more productive because it is not weighed down by fear. Life without the constant grasping is lighter, calmer, and infinitely more joyful. In Buddhist meditation, the practice of letting go is like unclenching the mind. Imagine sitting with your eyes closed, noticing the thoughts that come and go. Some will be pleasant, some uncomfortable, some deeply troubling. Normally, the mind grabs onto these thoughts, spinning them into stories, replaying them endlessly. But in meditation, you learn to see each thought like a cloud passing in the sky. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to fight it. You simply let it drift. This is letting go in action, the art of not turning every passing thought into a permanent residence in your mind. When it comes to worry, letting go means refusing to carry tomorrow's weight today. It means understanding that life is not asking you to solve all of its mysteries right now. You only need to meet this moment with presence. And the moment you catch yourself spiraling into what-if scenarios, you gently tell yourself, I release this. I will deal with what comes when it comes. This isn't denial. It's intelligent emotional management. It's deciding that you will not keep paying the high cost of worrying about things that may never happen. One of the most beautiful truths in Buddhism is that emptiness is not a void. It is spaciousness. When you let go, you are not left with nothing. You are left with space. And in that space, peace can breathe, joy can enter, creativity can flourish. Many of us say we want more peace in our lives, but we leave no room for it because our minds are crammed with anxious clutter. Letting go is how you make space for peace to live. This principle also extends to self-identity. Often, we cling not only to people or things, but to ideas about who we are supposed to be. We worry constantly about whether we are successful enough, good enough, respected enough. But identity, like everything else, is fluid. The person you were 5 years ago is not the person you are today, and the person you are today will not be the same 5 years from now. When you stop clinging to rigid self-definitions, you open yourself to growth. You free yourself from the exhausting pressure of performing an identity just to feel safe. In letting go, you also rediscover trust. Trust that life will give you what you need, even if it doesn't always give you what you want. This trust is not passive, it is active, alive. You keep showing up, doing your best, making wise choices, but you stop demanding that the universe dance to your rhythm. You trust that the timing, the opportunities, and even the endings will serve a greater purpose you may not yet see. Letting go will test you. There will be moments when fear whispers, "But what if you lose everything?" And in those moments you will remember, loss is inevitable, but suffering from it is optional. You cannot control when the seasons change, but you can choose to move with them rather than fight them. In this way, letting go is not an act of weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It takes courage to stop clinging. It takes wisdom to loosen your grip. And it takes love, for yourself and for life, to trust that even without constant control, you will be okay. When you begin to live light, you realize how much of your old worry was tied to a fear of losing control. But as you loosen your hold, you see that life still moves forward, often more gracefully than before. You discover that many of the things you feared losing were never yours to keep in the first place, and that the real treasures, like peace, freedom, and clarity, are found not in grasping, but in letting go. So take a breath, open your hands, release the grip you've been holding so long. Trust that what is meant for you will stay, and what is not will drift away. And as you let go, you will feel the lightness of a life no longer weighed down by worry, a life that flows free and fearless into the great unfolding of the present moment. Become the calm in life's storms. There comes a point on the journey of overcoming worry when you realize that you cannot remove every storm from life, but you can learn to stand in the middle of them without being swept away. This is the art of becoming the calm in life's storms. Most people live as if peace is something they can only feel when the skies are clear, the sun is shining, and life is moving according to their plans. But in Buddhism, peace is not dependent on perfect conditions. It is a state of being that can exist even when the world around you is in chaos. When you begin to understand this truth, you stop making your peace hostage to your circumstances. You stop saying, "I'll relax when things settle down," because you know that life rarely offers long stretches of perfect calm. Instead, you start asking, "How can I carry stillness inside me, no matter what's happening outside?" That is the mindset of a master, and it is exactly what dissolves worry at its core. The illusion of safety through control. Much of our worry comes from the belief that if we can control everything, we can protect ourselves from pain. So we micromanage every detail of our lives, making endless plans, preparing for every worst-case scenario, rehearsing future conversations in our heads, constantly scanning for problems. This gives us a temporary illusion of safety. But life always finds a way to remind us, you cannot control the weather, the timing, or the choices of others. And when reality inevitably breaks through your plans, you are left more shaken than if you had learned to flow with it from the start. In Buddhism, this is where the teaching of impermanence becomes a shield against worry. Impermanence says, everything changes, nothing stays forever, not the joy, not the pain, not even this storm. When you truly understand this, you stop fighting to make life permanent and predictable, and instead you learn to meet each moment as it is. You stop clinging to the sunny days and stop panicking when clouds gather. You realize that storms, too, have their place. They clear the air, they bring renewal, they reveal your hidden strength, your inner sanctuary. To become the calm in life's storms, you must build what I call an inner sanctuary, a place inside yourself where the noise of the world cannot reach you. This is not a physical location. It is a cultivated mental state, developed through practices like meditation, deep breathing, mindful walking, and compassionate self-reflection. It's the quiet space you can return to whenever your mind starts racing, whenever anxiety grips your chest, whenever the outside world tries to dictate your inner state. In this sanctuary, you learn to watch thoughts without becoming them. You see worry rising like a wave, but instead of being pulled under, you let it pass. You notice fear knocking at your door, but you do not invite it in for tea. Over time, your inner sanctuary becomes so familiar, so steady, that you can access it even in the middle of chaos. This is why seasoned meditators can remain peaceful even during moments of extreme uncertainty, because their peace is rooted deep within, not in the changing winds outside. Breathing through the tempest. The breath is one of the most overlooked tools for overcoming worry. Worry lives in the future, in what might happen, what could go wrong, what you fear you can't handle. But your breath lives here and now. When you bring your attention to your breath, you pull yourself out of the storm of imagined futures and anchor yourself in the present. This is why Buddhist monks return to the breath again and again during meditation, because it is the bridge between mind and body, between fear and calm, between chaos and clarity. Try this. The next time you feel worry taking over, stop and take 5 deep, slow breaths. With each inhale, imagine breathing in calm and clarity. With each exhale, imagine releasing tension and fear. It may sound simple, but this is the essence of Buddhist wisdom, small, consistent practices that transform the mind over time. If you can breathe through a storm, you can think through it, act through it, and live through it without drowning in panic. The power of not reacting immediately. Worry thrives when you react to every trigger instantly, when you feel a rush of anxiety and immediately start planning, researching, preparing, or spiraling. The more you feed the worry with frantic action, the stronger it becomes. But when you learn to pause, to wait before reacting, you starve the worry. You send yourself the message, I am not at the mercy of every thought or feeling that appears in my mind. In Buddhism, this is the practice of non-reactivity, allowing space between stimulus and response. This space is where wisdom lives. It's where you remember your lessons, where you recall that storms pass, where you choose calm over chaos. When you live from this space, even in the middle of a crisis, people will notice something different about you. They will see that you do not panic like others. They will see that your decisions are deliberate, not desperate. And this not only protects your peace, it makes you a source of stability for others, from resistance to acceptance. One of the most profound shifts you can make is moving from resisting life's storms to accepting them. Resistance sounds like, this shouldn't be happening. Acceptance sounds like, it is happening, so how will I meet it? Acceptance is not passive surrender. It is the wisdom of focusing your energy on what you can influence, instead of wasting it fighting the existence of what already is. Imagine standing in a river. If you resist the current, thrashing and fighting, you exhaust yourself quickly. But if you accept the current, you can use its flow to guide you to the shore. Life's storms are the same. When you resist them, worry grows. When you accept them, worry dissolves, replaced by the clarity of focused action. The storm as a teacher. Buddhism teaches that every difficulty carries the seed of awakening. Storms strip away illusions, expose what matters, and reveal who you truly are. Worry tries to make you believe that storms are purely destructive. But if you reflect honestly, you'll see that some of your greatest strengths were forged in your hardest seasons. You learned resilience not in perfect weather, but in relentless winds. You discovered patience not on calm days, but in long waits. You found courage not in comfort, but in challenge. Peace as a choice, not a gift. The greatest misunderstanding about peace is that it is something that arrives when life decides to give it to you. But the truth is, peace is a choice you can make in every moment, regardless of your circumstances. It is the choice to anchor yourself in the present, the choice to trust that impermanence will carry the storm away, the choice to stay grounded in your inner sanctuary instead of being pulled into the chaos. When you realize peace is a choice, you stop waiting for life to hand it to you. You start cultivating it every day, in small moments, in the way you breathe, in the way you pause before reacting, in the way you choose acceptance over resistance, trust over control, calm over chaos. The calm that changes the world around you. When you become the calm in life's storms, you do more than free yourself from worry. You influence everyone you touch. Your peace becomes contagious. Your stability becomes a refuge for others. People feel safer around you because they know you will not collapse under pressure. And in this way, your inner work ripples outward, creating pockets of calm in a noisy, anxious world. Buddhist monks often say that the most powerful thing you can do for the world is to heal your own mind. When you dissolve worry within yourself, you not only live lighter, you become a living example of what is possible. You show that peace is not fragile, that it can survive storms, that it can thrive in the very heart of uncertainty. Living as the calm. To live as the calm in life's storms is to embody all the lessons you have learned. You accept that worry solves nothing. You anchor yourself in the present moment. You replace what if with even if. You limit your mental diet to what nourishes you. You focus on what you can control. You give your worry a deadline. You trust the process of life. You let go and live light. And now you become the unshakable presence that remains peaceful no matter what life throws your way. Because storms will always come, but you have learned to be the stillness they cannot touch. Become the mountain, unshakable, silent, and free. There comes a point in the journey of mastering worry when you realize that the goal is not just to manage anxiety in small bursts, not just to find pockets of peace in a busy world, but to become unshakable at your very core, a presence so grounded, so steady that no amount of chaos can uproot it. This is what I call becoming the mountain. In Buddhist philosophy, the mountain is a symbol of stability, patience, and silent strength. It stands through storms, through scorching summers and bitter winters. Winds whip around it, rain lashes against it, snow buries its slopes, yet it does not move. It is not in a hurry. It does not demand that the weather be different before it can be at peace. And this is exactly the mindset we must cultivate if we are to stop letting worry control our lives. Most people live like leaves in the wind. Every small change in their environment, an unexpected bill, an awkward conversation, a delay in plans, sends them spinning in a dozen different directions. They are constantly reacting, constantly adjusting themselves to match the emotional climate around them. This is why worry consumes so many lives, because we keep giving it the power to dictate our state of being. But the mountain teaches a different way. It teaches that true peace is not about endlessly reshaping yourself to fit life's conditions. It is about standing firm in who you are, regardless of them. It is about learning to root yourself so deeply in your values, your faith, and your awareness of impermanence that no storm can shake you loose. To become the mountain, you must first understand that life will never stop testing you. Some people make the mistake of thinking, if I can just solve this problem, then I'll finally be able to relax. But as soon as that problem passes, another one will take its place. The bills will change, the relationships will change, the responsibilities will change, but the challenges will never stop coming. If your peace depends on challenges disappearing, you will spend your life chasing a mirage. The mountain's peace does not depend on the absence of storms. It exists in their very midst, and so must yours. This is why the first step to becoming the mountain is to stop chasing external safety as your main source of calm. Safety is temporary. No matter how secure you think your job is, no matter how stable you think your relationship is, no matter how solid you believe your plans are, life can shift them in an instant, and if your peace is tied to them, it will collapse the moment they do. The Buddha taught that clinging to what is temporary guarantees suffering. This is not meant to scare you, it is meant to set you free. Because when you stop tying your peace to what changes, you start anchoring it in what is eternal. Your ability to be present, to breathe, to observe without losing yourself, to act with wisdom rather than fear. Think of how a mountain exists in time. It has seen countless storms and still stands. It has been touched by generations of sunlight, and yet it does not cling to summer, nor does it resist the coming of winter. It allows each season to arrive, to do its work, and to pass. You must do the same with your own life seasons. You must welcome joy without grasping it, face sorrow without collapsing under it, and meet uncertainty without letting it hollow you out with worry. This is the essence of equanimity, the unshakable balance of mind that is central to Buddhist practice. The second step to becoming the mountain is to master stillness. Not just the stillness of the body, but the stillness of the mind. Stillness does not mean you stop moving through life or stop making decisions. It means you stop letting panic, fear, and overthinking whip your mind into endless motion. When you are still inside, you can see clearly. You can distinguish between what truly matters and what is just noise. You can act with precision rather than desperation. Stillness gives you the ability to sit quietly in the middle of uncertainty without rushing to fix it immediately, because you trust that clarity will come in its own time. In practical terms, this means you must develop rituals that return you to stillness every day. This could be meditation, mindful breathing, walking in nature, sitting silently with tea, or simply pausing for a few moments before responding to challenges. Every time you do this, you are sending your mind the message, I am safe in this moment. I do not need to be swept away by what might happen. I can handle whatever comes when it comes. This is how you train your nervous system to stop reacting like a leaf in the wind and start holding steady like a mountain in its place. The third step is to stop being afraid of life's storms. Many people think that if they prepare enough, if they worry enough, they can prevent storms from coming. But storms are part of life's design. Without them, we would never grow strong. Without challenges, we would never uncover our deeper capacities. The mountain is shaped by wind and rain over centuries, and in the same way, your character is shaped by the trials you endure. If you can see storms as sculptors rather than destroyers, you will begin to face them with far less fear. Instead of worrying, why is this happening to me? You will start asking, what is this here to teach me? That question alone can transform your relationship with difficulty. The fourth step to becoming the mountain is to ground yourself in compassion. This may seem unrelated to worry at first glance, but it is deeply connected. Worry is often self-centered in the sense that it is focused entirely on my life, my future, my problems. When you shift your focus outward, when you practice compassion for others, when you give your time, your attention, your kindness, your own worries shrink in size. You start to see that everyone is carrying burdens. You stop feeling singled out by life's challenges. Compassion not only softens your heart, but also expands your perspective, making worry seem less all-consuming. The fifth step is to embrace patience as a daily discipline. Worry is always impatient. It wants answers now, solutions now, certainty now. But life unfolds at its own pace, just as seasons change on their own schedule. A farmer cannot rush the growth of crops by pulling at them. The mountain does not rush spring to arrive, nor beg autumn to stay. It accepts the pace of nature. In your own life, patience is not just about waiting, it is about how you wait. It is waiting with trust, with steadiness, with the quiet confidence that things will unfold as they should. Finally, the deepest step in becoming the mountain is to root yourself in the understanding of impermanence so completely that you no longer fear it. The mountain knows that one day even it will crumble, that nothing in form lasts forever, and yet it does not despair. It simply continues being what it is until that day comes. This is the paradox of life. The more you accept that nothing lasts, the more deeply you can love it while it's here. The more you stop clinging to permanence, the freer you become from worry about its loss. When you live this way, anchored in presence, stillness, patience, compassion, and acceptance of impermanence, you become unshakable. Worry may still knock at your door from time to time, but it will find no place to stay. It will bounce off the solid walls of your inner mountain and fade into the distance. People will notice the change in you. They will see that you do not react like you once did, that you do not panic when plans change, that you carry an invisible steadiness even in uncertainty, and they will be drawn to it, because in a world full of leaves blowing in the wind, the mountain is rare. This is the final key to breaking free from worry. Stop trying to be the weather and start being the mountain. Stop letting every passing cloud dictate your mood. Stop giving every gust of wind the power to uproot you. Stand firm in your values, in your trust in life, in your understanding that storms will pass. When you become the mountain, you stop chasing peace, because you are peace. And no matter how fiercely the winds blow, you will remain what you have always been, steady, silent, and free. Let go completely. The freedom beyond worry. There is a kind of freedom so rare, so deep, and so absolute, that once you taste it, you will never return to your old way of living. It is the freedom that comes when you finally let go completely. Not halfway, not with conditions, but fully and unreservedly. In the Buddhist path, this letting go is not about abandoning your responsibilities, neglecting your loved ones, or retreating from the world in cold detachment. It is about releasing the mental chains that keep you trapped in a prison of constant worry, fear, and overthinking. It is about loosening the grip of your mind's endless what-ifs and stepping into a way of being where your peace no longer depends on outcomes you cannot control. This is the highest step in overcoming worry, to let go so deeply that worry no longer has a foothold in your life. Most people think they have let go when they stop thinking about something for a few hours or distract themselves with work, entertainment, or conversations. But this is not true letting go. This is temporary avoidance. True letting go means you no longer feel the need to constantly check if things are going the way you want them to. It means you have stopped feeding your anxiety with endless mental rehearsals of worst-case scenarios. It means that even if life brings you something completely different from what you planned, your inner balance remains untouched. You no longer live in resistance to what is. The reason worry has such power over people is because they confuse control with security. They believe that if they can control enough details, their schedules, their relationships, their health, their future, then they can finally feel safe. But the truth is, control is an illusion. You can influence, you can prepare, you can take wise action, but you can never fully control. The weather changes, people change, the economy shifts, opportunities appear and vanish, and even your own feelings transform with time. The Buddha taught that clinging to control is one of the root causes of suffering. When you cling, you suffer twice. Once because of the difficulty itself, and once because of your refusal to accept it. Letting go removes that second layer of suffering entirely. Think of your mind like a hand holding a rope. When the rope is pulled suddenly, representing the challenges and uncertainties of life, the tighter you grip, the more it burns your skin. The looser you hold, the less pain you feel. Worry is the tight grip. Letting go is loosening it. You still have the rope. You are still engaged with life, but you are no longer injuring yourself by holding on too tightly. In practical terms, letting go completely means you stop needing to have all the answers before you can feel at peace. You stop trying to predict every possible outcome before you can move forward. You trust that whatever comes, you will meet it when it arrives, not before. This is the essence of what Buddhist wisdom calls non-attachment. It does not mean you care less, it means you care wisely. You still set goals, you still work towards your dreams, you still show up for the people you love, but you no longer demand that life must unfold exactly as you have imagined. One of the most powerful aspects of letting go is that it opens the door to flow. Worry tightens your mind, narrows your vision, and locks you into rigid expectations. Letting go, on the other hand, opens you to unexpected possibilities. It allows life to bring you opportunities that your worrying mind would have never considered. Think of a river. When you fight the current, you exhaust yourself and go nowhere. When you let go and float, the current carries you to new places effortlessly. This is why, in Buddhist meditation, we often focus not on getting rid of thoughts, but on letting them come and go without clinging to them. The same principle applies to life itself. When you stop clinging, you stop drowning in the waves of your own mind. The storms may still come, but you are no longer fighting against them. You let them pass over you, knowing that beneath the surface, the water is always still. The fear that stops most people from letting go completely is the belief that if they stop worrying, they will lose control and everything will fall apart. But the opposite is true. Worry makes your mind reactive and unclear, leading to poor decisions and wasted energy. Letting go sharpens your clarity because you are no longer distracted by the noise of fear. You act with more precision, not less. You respond with more wisdom, not less. You become like an archer who steadies their breath before releasing the arrow, calm, focused, and effective. Letting go also means forgiving the past and releasing the future. Worry often lives in these two timelines: regret over what you cannot change and fear over what you cannot predict. The present moment is almost always manageable, but the mind rarely stays here willingly. It runs into the past to replay mistakes or into the future to rehearse disasters. Letting go pulls your attention back to now, the only place where you have power, clarity, and choice. This is why the Buddha emphasized mindfulness so strongly. The mind that lives in the present is a mind that cannot be ruled by worry. Another dimension of letting go is surrender, not as a sign of defeat, but as the highest form of trust. Surrender means you have faith that life has its own wisdom, that there is a deeper intelligence guiding the unfolding of events, even when you cannot see it. In Buddhism, this trust is built on the understanding of interdependence. Everything is connected, and every event is part of a greater web of cause and effect. Your task is not to control every thread, but to walk your path with awareness and integrity. When you truly trust this, you no longer panic when things seem uncertain, because you know that uncertainty is just the space where possibilities live. The beauty of letting go completely is that it transforms your very way of being. People will notice that you no longer rush to fix everything the moment it seems off balance. They will see that you do not get easily shaken when plans change. They will feel the quiet confidence in you, not the loud, forced confidence of someone who is pretending, but the deep, effortless calm of someone who has stopped fighting life. And this will inspire them, because in a world that clings desperately to control, the person who has let go stands out like a lighthouse in the storm. Letting go completely does not mean you will never feel worry again. The mind is conditioned, and old habits may resurface. But each time they do, you will recognize them sooner. You will smile at them like an old friend who no longer has power over you. You will return to your center, to your breath, to your trust in the unfolding of life. Over time, worry will visit you less and less, until it becomes a faint echo in the distance, a voice you once knew but no longer follow. This is the final liberation from worry, to let go so deeply that you do not just manage it, you transcend it. You become like the sky, vast, open, and unaffected by the passing clouds. The storms may come and go, but they cannot stain the sky. When you live like this, you stop asking life to give you peace because you have become the source of it. You stop chasing control because you have discovered the greater power of trust. And you stop letting worry steal your happiness because happiness is no longer something you are trying to hold on to. It is simply who you are. Become the mountain, unshakable in a world that never stops moving. There is a kind of peace so rare that most people will go their entire lives without tasting it. It is not the peace that comes when things are going your way, when your plans fall perfectly into place, or when life temporarily pauses its challenges. That peace is fragile, easily stolen by the next disruption. The peace I am speaking of is something entirely different. It is the peace of being unshakable no matter what the world throws at you. In Buddhism, this is the state of inner equanimity, the deep steadiness of mind that remains undisturbed in the face of both joy and sorrow, gain and loss, praise and blame. And to understand how to live this way, imagine the image of a great mountain. The mountain does not chase the clouds, nor does it fear the storms. It does not lean away from the winds, nor does it cling to the sunshine. It simply stands, vast, grounded, and immovable. Storms may rage across its surface, snow may fall on its peaks, the sun may bake its slopes, yet at its core the mountain remains unchanged. This is what you must become if you wish to stop letting worry control your life. The mountain. Solid in your essence, unshaken by the ever-changing weather of existence. Most people live like leaves in the wind, tossed in every direction by the shifting circumstances of their lives. A good day lifts them up. A bad day sends them crashing down. A kind word makes them feel worthy. A harsh word makes them feel broken. They are at the mercy of other people's opinions, the economy's fluctuations, the unpredictability of health, relationships, and the future. This is why worry consumes them, because they have built their sense of stability on things that are not stable, and what is built on instability will always feel threatened. The Buddhist path invites you to root your sense of peace in something deeper than conditions, in the still, unchanging presence of your own awareness. Just as the mountain's strength comes from the rock beneath the surface, your strength comes from the awareness beneath your thoughts, emotions, and circumstances. Worry cannot touch this part of you because it lives in a different dimension entirely. Worry lives in the restless surface mind. Your unshakable peace lives in the silent core beneath it. To become the mountain, you must first stop identifying so completely with the passing weather of your life. When the storm comes, the leaf thinks the storm is everything. The mountain knows the storm will pass. When things go wrong, the mind that is attached to outcomes panics and scrambles for control. The mind rooted in deeper awareness remains calm, waiting for clarity to return before acting. This is not passivity, it is wisdom. The mountain does not run from the storm, but it also does not exhaust itself, fighting it. It endures with dignity. But how do you actually reach this place in real life, where worries lose their grip? The first step is to train yourself to see life in seasons rather than in snapshots. Worry thrives when you fixate on a single moment as if it is the whole story. You lose a job and your mind says, This is the end. A relationship ends and your mind says, "I'll never be happy again." You face a health challenge and your mind says, "This is my permanent reality." But mountains know seasons. They know that snow comes in winter and melts in spring, that storms clear to reveal blue skies, that even fire-scorched slopes will sprout new life in time. When you begin to think in seasons, you understand that what is now will not always be. And that understanding begins to dissolve the tightness of worry. The second step is to cultivate stillness as a daily practice. Stillness is not just physical rest. It is the quieting of the mind's frantic need to solve everything at once. Buddhist meditation is the most direct way to touch this stillness. Even just 10 minutes a day of sitting quietly, breathing, and allowing thoughts to pass without chasing them trains you to stop feeding worry with your attention. You begin to see that thoughts, even anxious ones, are like clouds drifting through the sky. They cannot stain the sky itself, and you are the sky. The third step is to anchor yourself in values instead of outcomes. Worry clings to outcomes. Will I get what I want? Will things go as I hope? But values are not dependent on conditions. You can live with kindness regardless of whether people treat you well. You can live with integrity regardless of whether your honesty is rewarded. You can live with compassion regardless of whether others reciprocate. When you root your peace in values, you stop giving the world so much power over your inner state. This is the mountain's secret. Its strength does not come from the weather being good, but from the rock that does not change. The fourth step is to release the illusion of constant readiness. Worry convinces you that you must be prepared for every possible scenario before it happens. It says, "If I can think through all the bad things that might occur, I can prevent them." But life does not work like that. You can prepare for what is reasonable, but you cannot live in a constant rehearsal of disasters. It exhausts you and blinds you to the beauty of the present. In Buddhist thought, this is why we practice mindful presence, because the future is only an idea until it arrives, and the past is only a memory. The only reality you ever truly have is now. The mountain does not try to stand in tomorrow's weather, it stands in today's. The fifth step is to remember impermanence, not as a source of fear, but as a source of liberation. Everything you are worried about will change, just as everything you love will change. This is the nature of life. When you cling, you suffer. When you let things come and go naturally, you flow with life instead of fighting it. Impermanence is not your enemy. It is what allows pain to fade, wounds to heal, and winter to turn into spring. The mountain knows this, which is why it does not despair in the snow or become arrogant in the sunshine. It simply lives each moment fully, knowing that all things move. The sixth step is to practice radical acceptance of what is, without collapsing into helplessness. Radical acceptance does not mean you give up. It means you stop wasting energy denying reality. If the storm is here, pretending it isn't will not make it go away. Acceptance gives you the clear sight to take wise action instead of letting worry drive you into blind reaction. This is why in Buddhist teachings, acceptance and skillful action go hand in hand. You accept the reality of the present moment, then work skillfully within it instead of exhausting yourself resisting it. The seventh step is to see worry itself as a teacher. Every worry you feel is a sign pointing to where you are clinging too tightly, where you are placing your trust in unstable ground. If you follow worry back to its root, you will find some attachment to comfort, to certainty, to control, to approval. By loosening that attachment, you weaken worry's hold on you. The mountain is strong because it is not attached to the weather. It does not say, "The sun must shine," or "I cannot be at peace." It simply stands, regardless. And here is the final truth. Becoming the mountain is not something you do once and then forget. It is a way of living that you choose again and again, especially when storms come. Some days you will feel rooted and vast. Other days the winds will feel like they are pushing you. That is natural. The practice is not about never feeling shaken. It is about returning to your groundedness every time you are. Over time, you will find that your returns become quicker, your peace deeper, and your worries less convincing. When you live this way, people will sense something different in you. They will see that you do not rise and fall with the same wild swings as everyone else. They will wonder how you remain calm when others are panicking, how you stay steady when plans fall apart, how you keep moving forward without being pulled under by fear. You will not have to explain. Your presence will explain for you. Because the mountain does not announce its strength. It simply stands, and all who see it understand. And one day, you will notice something profound. You no longer wake up every morning bracing yourself for what could go wrong. You no longer carry the constant hum of anxiety in the background of your days. You have stopped letting worry steal your happiness, not because life has become perfect, but because you have discovered that peace does not come from life behaving. It comes from you standing. You will have become the mountain. The art of letting life flow, mastering the balance between surrender and action. There comes a point on the spiritual path when you realize that much of your suffering was never caused by life itself. It was caused by your attempts to make life obey your demands. Worry, stress, fear, and frustration are the children of resistance. Resistance to uncertainty, resistance to change, resistance to anything that doesn't match the picture in your mind. The more you resist the natural flow of life, the more life feels like a fight. In Buddhism, this clinging and resisting is called tanha, craving or grasping. It is the constant, I want this, I don't want that, voice that keeps you at war with reality. And as long as you are at war with reality, peace will remain a distant dream. The truth is this, life was never meant to be fully controlled. It was meant to be lived. This does not mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you act wisely, without trying to force the river to flow in a direction it was never meant to go. Imagine a great river winding through mountains and valleys. The water does not fight to flow uphill, nor does it panic when rocks block its way. It simply moves around the obstacles, always finding a path forward. This is how you must learn to move through life. Not as someone wrestling with the current, but as someone learning to flow with it while still steering wisely. Worry thrives in the absence of this understanding. It tells you that you must have every answer before taking a step, that you must secure the future before you can relax, that you must arrange the world into perfect safety before you can enjoy it. And because these are impossible conditions, worry traps you in a loop of endless mental rehearsal and imagined catastrophes. You end up missing the actual moments of your life because you are so busy trying to control the imagined ones. The Buddhist path offers a different way, a union between surrender and action. Surrender here does not mean weakness, it means letting go of the delusion that you can control the unfolding of everything. It means accepting the truth that you can influence life, but you cannot command it. And action here does not mean restless, frantic doing. It means wise, focused, intentional steps taken from a place of clarity, not fear. When you master this balance, worry begins to dissolve because your mind no longer wastes energy fighting the impossible. The first stage of mastering this balance is learning to act without attachment to results. Most of your worry is tied to your attachment to specific outcomes. You send a job application and immediately worry whether you will get the position. You confess your feelings to someone and worry whether they will reciprocate. You invest your time in a project and worry whether it will succeed. It is natural to hope for good outcomes, but it is suffering to chain your peace to them. The Buddhist way is to give your best effort, then release the result into the hands of life. When you can say, I have done my part, now I let life do the rest, you break worry's chokehold on your mind. The second stage is to trust the unseen process. Life unfolds in ways you cannot always predict or understand in the moment. Sometimes, what looks like a loss now is making space for something greater later. Sometimes, what feels like a delay is actually perfect timing in disguise. Worry tries to make you distrust the process, insisting that if you don't get what you want immediately, something has gone wrong. But Buddhist wisdom teaches that nothing is wasted. Every twist, every detour, every pause has its place in the great pattern, even if you can't yet see the full picture. Learning to trust this truth frees you from the exhausting need to micromanage the universe. The third stage is to root your mind in the present moment. Worry is always a time traveler. It pulls you into the future to replay imagined disasters or drags you into the past to relive regrets. The present moment is where your actual life exists, but worry convinces you to abandon it in favor of illusions. In Buddhist mindfulness practice, you train yourself to keep returning to this moment, to your breath, your surroundings, your current action. You learn to see that right now, in this moment, you are okay. The roof is over your head, the air is in your lungs, the ground is beneath your feet. By returning here again and again, you weaken worry's power to carry you into worlds that don't even exist. The fourth stage is to stop feeding the mind junk thoughts. Just as your body becomes unhealthy when you feed it unhealthy food, your mind becomes anxious and restless when you feed it a constant diet of fearful news, toxic conversations, and endless mental overthinking. In Buddhism, the mind is seen as fertile soil. Whatever you plant in it will grow. If you plant seeds of fear, doubt, and cynicism, you will harvest worry. If you plant seeds of gratitude, wisdom, and compassion, you will harvest peace. This is why you must guard your mental diet as carefully as your physical one. Surround yourself with uplifting teachings, spend time with people who inspire rather than drain you, and give your attention to what nourishes your spirit. The fifth stage is to reframe uncertainty as possibility. Worry sees uncertainty as a threat. Wisdom sees it as the birthplace of all new opportunities. If you knew exactly how every day of your life would unfold, you would lose the magic of discovery. The greatest blessings often arrive wrapped in the paper of the unknown. Meeting a new person, starting a new job, moving to a new city, all of these carry uncertainty, and yet they are also the gateways to transformation. When you can shift your relationship to uncertainty from fear to curiosity, worry loses one of its strongest weapons against you. The sixth stage is to release the need for constant readiness. Many people live as though life is a battlefield where danger could appear at any second, so they keep themselves in a constant state of tension, rehearsing responses, bracing for impact, waiting for the next problem. This state of hypervigilance is exhausting and unnecessary. Yes, prepare for reasonable challenges, but do not live in a posture of fear. Life has always contained uncertainty, and yet here you are, you have survived every challenge so far. Give yourself permission to live without the constant burden of expecting the worst. The seventh stage is to align your actions with compassion and integrity. When your actions come from these values, you carry far less regret, guilt, or inner conflict, which means less fuel for worry. Much of the anxiety people carry is actually unresolved inner conflict about the choices they have made. But when you know you are living in a way that is true to your deeper self, you walk with lighter shoulders. Even if life brings difficulties, you meet them with a clear conscience and a steady heart. The eighth stage is to practice radical patience. Worry is impatient. It demands answers now, solutions now, relief now. But life has its own pace, and rushing it only increases suffering. Patience, in the Buddhist sense, is not passive waiting. It is the active choice to stay present and engaged without demanding instant results. It is trusting that some fruits ripen in their own season, no matter how much you want them today. The more you can embrace this truth, the less frantic your mind becomes, and the more peace you feel in the in-between moments of life. The ninth stage is to let go of the fantasy of total control. This is the deepest surrender and the hardest for most people. The truth is, no one has complete control, not over the weather, not over the behavior of others, not over the timing of every blessing or challenge. And yet, you do have control over your attitude, your choices, your words, and your actions in this moment. When you shift your energy away from trying to control what you can't and towards skillfully using what you can, worry loses its foundation. You stop trying to be the general of the universe and start becoming the master of your own inner world. The final stage, the one that ties all the others together, is to live as though life is your ally, not your enemy. Worry thrives when you see life as something out to get you, something to be survived rather than embraced. But when you begin to see life as a partner in your growth, even challenges take on a new light. The difficult people, the delays, the detours, they become teachers. The uncertainty becomes an adventure. The setbacks become fuel for strength. This shift in relationship changes everything because you are no longer moving through life in defense. You are moving through it in collaboration. And when you master this art of flowing between surrender and action, life feels entirely different. You no longer wake each morning bracing for a fight. You rise with curiosity, ready to participate in whatever this day brings. You still work toward your dreams, but you no longer measure your worth or your peace by whether they arrive on your preferred schedule. You still face challenges, but you meet them as a river meets rocks, flowing around them, not shattering against them. You still have hopes, but they are no longer cages. They are open doors you walk toward without fear of what's behind them. At this point, you have stopped letting worry control your life, not because you have eliminated every challenge, but because you have changed your relationship to them. You have learned to trust the flow, to steer with wisdom, to rest in the now, and to take life one true, grounded step at a time. This is the Buddhist way, not the absence of storms, but the ability to sail with grace through whatever waters you find yourself in. When you live this way, happiness is no longer something that can be stolen from you because it no longer depends on fragile circumstances. It is something you carry within you, like the steady current beneath the surface of the river. And with that, you are finally free, walking freely beyond worry, becoming the peace you seek. There comes a stage in the journey when you no longer measure your progress by how few problems you have, but by how lightly you carry them. For much of life, we are taught to chase the idea that happiness lies in eliminating all sources of worry, paying off every bill, fixing every relationship, securing every future. But this is a trap, because life is never free of uncertainty. Even when one set of problems fades, another quietly takes its place. The Buddhist path offers a far more liberating truth. The goal is not to have no storms. The goal is to become the kind of person who can walk calmly in the rain without fear of getting wet. When you stop letting worry control you, you begin to understand that peace is not something you find at the end of the road. It is something you bring to every step you take. This is not an abstract idea. It is a living reality that you can feel in your breath, in the way you respond to people, in the way you handle each moment. Worry thrives on your belief that you must wait for peace until conditions are perfect. But the irony is, the moment you decide to carry peace within you, even when things are messy, uncertain, or incomplete, worry begins to starve. The first shift toward walking freely beyond worry is to see worry for what it really is. Worry dresses itself up as a friend. It whispers, "If I keep thinking about this, I'll be prepared. If I keep imagining every scenario, I'll be safe." But if you look closely, you'll see that worry has never once solved a problem. It has only consumed your energy, made your sleep restless, shortened your patience, and clouded your judgment. Buddhist wisdom says the mind, when untamed, will create suffering all by itself, even in peaceful surroundings. That's what worry does. It builds storms out of thin air. The moment you recognize this pattern, you can begin to step outside of it. The second shift is learning the discipline of mental space. Most people live as if their thoughts are an unstoppable river, carrying them wherever it flows. But in truth, you can step to the riverbank and watch the water pass without being swept away. This is the practice of mindfulness, not to suppress thoughts, not to fight them, but to observe them without being trapped inside them. Imagine sitting in a garden and hearing birdsong. You don't chase each bird, you let it come and go. In the same way, you can let thoughts of worry arise and pass without grabbing them, without following them into endless what-if stories. This single shift changes the entire relationship you have with worry. It stops being your master and becomes just another passing sound in the background of your mind. The third shift is to return to the body. Worry lives in the mind, but it feeds on the body's reactions, the tight chest, the shallow breath, the tense jaw. If you let these signals go unnoticed, they become the fuel that keeps the mind's worry engine running. But if you can pause, take slow breaths, feel your feet on the ground, notice the sensations in your body, you create a bridge back to the present moment. This is not just a relaxation trick, it is a way of breaking the cycle where thoughts fuel tension and tension fuels more thoughts. Every time you do this, you reclaim a little more space from worry's grip. The fourth shift is to live in alignment with what truly matters. Worry often magnifies things that are small in the grand view of your life, while distracting you from what is essential. You might spend hours worrying about how you appeared in a conversation, while barely giving a thought to whether you lived today with kindness and integrity. But when you live by your values, honesty, compassion, patience, you feel a deeper security that worry cannot touch. Even when life throws challenges, you meet them knowing that you are walking your path with a clear heart. This clarity of conscience is one of the greatest antidotes to worry, because so much anxiety is born from inner conflict between who we are and who we know we should be. The fifth shift is to change your relationship with time. Worry thrives in the false belief that the present moment is just a waiting room for the future, a place to sit and stress until the real moment arrives. But in truth, the present moment is the only time you ever have. The past is a memory, the future is a projection, and the only moment you can actually live is this one. Buddhist practice teaches that when you honor this moment as complete in itself, worry loses its urgency. You stop thinking, "I will relax when things are fixed," and start thinking, "I can choose to be at peace right here, even as things unfold." This does not mean you stop planning or preparing. It means you stop sacrificing your current peace for an imagined later one. The sixth shift is to treat life as a teacher, not a threat. When something unexpected happens, worry immediately frames it as danger. But if you shift your perspective to see it as a lesson, the fear begins to fade. That difficult person, they are teaching you patience. That unexpected bill, it is teaching you resourcefulness. That delay in your plans, it is teaching you to slow down and trust timing. This is not a sugar-coated view of life. It is a practical way of turning every situation into growth. And growth is incompatible with the paralysis of worry. When your mind is looking for lessons instead of disasters, you free yourself from constant fear of what's coming next. The seventh shift is to practice compassionate self-talk. Worry often grows because we scold ourselves for feeling it. We think, "I shouldn't be anxious, I should be stronger." But this self-criticism only adds another layer of stress. In Buddhist compassion practice, you treat your own mind the way you would treat a scared child, with patience, kindness, and gentle guidance. You don't shout at the child to stop crying. You reassure them, "I am here, you are safe, let's take this one step at a time." When you begin to speak to yourself in this way, worry softens because you are no longer fighting your own experience. The eighth shift is learning to release without regret. Many people stay trapped in worry because they fear that letting go means giving up. But letting go simply means you have decided to stop holding the rope that's cutting your hands. If a situation is no longer in your control, if you have done all you can do, then holding on only keeps you in pain. Release is not weakness. It is a choice to stop carrying what is not yours anymore. It is an act of faith, trusting that life continues to move forward, even if you are not gripping every detail. The ninth shift is to see impermanence as freedom, not threat. Everything changes. This is one of the core truths of Buddhism. Worry fears change because it clings to the illusion of permanence. But when you accept impermanence as natural, even beautiful, you stop fearing the changes that come. You realize that nothing is stuck forever, not your struggles, not your pain, not even your current worries. Just as seasons turn, so do chapters of your life. The same truth that makes loss possible also makes renewal possible. This awareness brings a quiet courage to face whatever comes, knowing it will pass in its time. The 10th and final shift is choosing to be the peace you have been chasing. Most people think peace is a prize you receive when life finally behaves. But real peace is a presence you choose to embody regardless of life's behavior. It is in your tone when you speak, in your patience when you wait, in your ability to smile even when plans change. It is in the way you listen more than you interrupt, breathe more than you panic, trust more than you doubt. When you carry this peace, you are no longer waiting for life to hand it to you. You are giving it to life. And in doing so, you make worry unnecessary. When you reach this stage, you realize that the journey to stop letting worry control your life was never really about fighting worry directly. It was about becoming a person so grounded, so present, so aligned with the truth of how life works, that worry simply has nowhere to take root. You are no longer a prisoner of your own mind. You can face uncertainty without drowning in it. You can meet challenges without fearing them. You can live today without constantly trying to escape into tomorrow. This is what it means to walk freely beyond worry. Not that you never feel it, but that you no longer mistake it for truth. You no longer build your life around it. You no longer let it steal the only thing you ever truly own, this moment. You are here. You are alive. You are free, living so fully that worry has no room to stay. There is a truth that very few people realize until much later in life. Worry cannot survive in a mind that is fully alive in the present. Worry is a parasite that feeds on the gaps in your awareness. It cannot thrive in moments of genuine presence. When you are fully immersed in what you are doing, when your attention is anchored, when your senses are awake, it only grows when the mind drifts into what if, and what then, and what will happen. And so, the deepest freedom from worry is not found in fighting it, but in filling your life so richly with awareness, purpose, and authentic living that there is no space left for worry to grow. In Buddhist understanding, the mind is like a garden. If you leave it unattended, weeds of worry will spread without restraint. You cannot simply pull out every weed one by one and expect a permanent fix. You must plant and nurture the flowers of presence, purpose, and peace, so that weeds have no soil left in which to take root. In the same way, the mind that is empty of meaningful engagement will naturally fall back into cycles of overthinking and fear. The way to end worry is to actively cultivate a life so engaged in meaningful living that the mind has no room left for needless fear. The first step to living so fully is to reclaim your mornings. Most people start their day already feeding their mind with seeds of anxiety, checking messages before their feet even touch the floor, scanning headlines full of disasters, letting the mind jump straight into the noise of what's next. But if you begin your day in this way, you've already surrendered your mind to the world's chaos before you've even centered yourself. Instead, start each morning with a pause. Breathe. Say a short gratitude. Thank you for another day. Stretch your body. Feel your breath. Notice that you are alive. This single act of reclaiming your first moments sets the tone for the rest of the day. Worry thrives on unconscious starts. Presence thrives on intentional ones. The second step is to fill your days with intentional action, not reactive distraction. When your life is ruled by reaction, answering every ping, following every impulse, worrying about every possible outcome, you become a servant to whatever shouts loudest. Worry loves this because it means you will always have an open door for it to walk in. But when you live intentionally, you choose what matters and give it your full presence. It could be your work, your relationships, your learning, your creativity, but you are in it fully. You are not half working while half thinking about something else. You are not half listening while rehearsing your response in your head. You are there. This is how you close the door on worry without having to fight it directly. The third step is to stop overfeeding your mind with unnecessary inputs. Your mind is shaped by what you feed it. Constant news updates, endless social scrolling, toxic conversations, and fear-driven content are like a diet of junk food for your awareness. They keep your nervous system in a constant state of tension, and in that tension, worry multiplies. If you want to truly stop worry from controlling your life, you must protect the quality of your mental diet. It's not about hiding from reality. It's about refusing to drown in the noise that distracts you from living. Buddhist monks are very deliberate about what enters their minds. They do not spend hours letting random content shape their thoughts. This discipline is not isolation. It is choosing clarity over chaos. The fourth step is to give yourself to something larger than your own fears. Worry is self-centered, even if it doesn't feel that way. It revolves endlessly around my problem, my future, my safety, my image. One of the most powerful ways to dissolve worry is to shift your focus outward, toward service, toward compassion, toward contributing to the well-being of others. This is why, in Buddhism, acts of kindness are not just moral teachings, they are a form of medicine for the restless mind. When you are helping someone else, you are not sitting in the cramped room of your own worries. You are out in the open space of shared humanity, where the heart naturally expands and the mind naturally quiets. The fifth step is to create small daily rituals that anchor you in peace. It is not enough to simply understand that peace is possible. You must train your nervous system to return to it again and again. For some, it may be 10 minutes of meditation in the morning. For others, it could be a slow walk after work, a cup of tea enjoyed in silence, an evening journal where you empty the mind before bed. These rituals are like stepping stones across a river. Without them, the current of life will sweep you into the middle of the stream, and worry will take over. With them, you keep finding your footing, no matter how fast the waters move. The sixth step is to practice deep acceptance, not surface-level resignation. Many people mistake acceptance for giving up. It is what it is, said with a defeated shrug. But true acceptance is not defeat. It is the recognition that fighting reality only wastes your strength. You can still take action to improve things, but you are no longer poisoning your efforts with constant resistance. You stop arguing with the present moment and start working with it. This shift is profoundly freeing because so much worry is actually a fight against what already is. When you stop fighting what already exists, you regain the energy to shape what comes next. The seventh step is to master the art of letting go in real time. Most people carry unnecessary mental baggage far longer than needed. A passing comment from a co-worker will replay in the mind for hours. A small mistake will turn into a mountain of self-criticism. A plan that changes will spiral into imagined disasters. Letting go in real time means recognizing the moment your mind grabs something it doesn't need to carry, and dropping it right there. This takes training, but it is life-changing. Imagine walking with a heavy bag and realizing halfway that you don't need half the things inside. You could carry them all day, but why would you? When you let go immediately, you stay light. The 8th step is to celebrate small moments of joy and beauty. Worry feeds on the belief that nothing is going well unless everything is perfect. But in reality, life is full of small, perfect moments. A kind word from a stranger, a sunset spilling gold across the sky, the sound of laughter, the warmth of tea in your hands. If you wait for a perfect, worry-free day before you allow yourself to be happy, you will wait forever. But if you make a habit of noticing and celebrating these small moments, you begin to live in a constant undercurrent of quiet joy that worry cannot touch. The 9th step is to treat your peace as non-negotiable. Too often people treat peace as optional, something they'll get to if they have time. But if you do not protect your peace, the world will gladly fill your mind with anxiety. Treat your peace as you would treat your health, as something worth defending, scheduling, and investing in. Say no to commitments that drain you without meaning. Step away from conversations that only fuel your fear. Choose where your attention goes with the seriousness of someone choosing what to put into their own body. The 10th and final step is to live each day as if you had already reached the future you're worried about and found out that you were okay all along. Imagine if every single worry you have right now somehow resolved itself in the best possible way. How would you live today? How would you walk? How would you speak to others? What would you let go of? The truth is, you do not have to wait for that future to arrive to live in that state. You can borrow that peace now. You can live as if the outcome is already safe. And in doing so, you start to shape a life that actually moves toward that peace instead of away from it. When you fill your life in this way, with presence, intention, meaningful action, and deep acceptance, you will find that worry no longer has much to work with. It may still visit, but it will find no empty rooms in which to settle. You will not need to push it away. It will simply have nowhere to stay. And this is the quiet victory of living so fully. You do not defeat worry in a dramatic battle. You simply outgrow it. That is the beauty of this lesson. You do not need to wait until your life is perfect to stop worrying. You only need to live so fully, so intentionally, so rooted in the present moment that worry becomes too small a thing to steal the life you're living. And when you live like this, you realize something truly life-changing. The happiness you were chasing was never somewhere else. It was always here, waiting for you to give it the space to be felt. If you'd like, I can now create the final grand conclusion for this entire Buddhism series, tying together all 15 lessons in a powerful, emotional way that will leave your audience deeply moved and ready to act. When you look back over these 15 lessons, you'll notice something profound. We have not been talking about worry as an enemy to fight, but as a shadow to outgrow. Each lesson has been a stepping stone away from the noise of fear and into the clarity of living fully. We began with the simple but life-altering truth. Worry solves nothing. It does not fix problems. It only drains your ability to face them. Then we learned to anchor ourselves in the present moment, to stop being dragged into imagined futures, and to root our attention where life is actually happening, here and now. We replaced the crippling "what if" with the empowering "even if," because resilience is born not from certainty, but from trust in our own ability to adapt. We began to limit our mental diet, realizing that the mind becomes what it consumes, and that fear will grow in the soil of chaotic inputs if we do not guard it carefully. We shifted to focusing on what we can control, understanding that power lies not in trying to master the winds, but in learning to steer our own ship. We gave our worry a deadline, refusing to let it run endlessly through our thoughts without resolution. And we surrendered to trusting the process of life, knowing that the river still flows even when we cannot see the ocean. But the journey did not stop there. With each step, you have been moving towards something far greater than simply not worrying. You have been learning how to live, to choose your mornings instead of stumbling into them, to fill your days with intentional action instead of reactive distraction, to stop feeding your mind a constant diet of fear and noise, to step beyond the narrow circle of self-preoccupation and into the vast openness of compassion and contribution, to anchor your life in small daily rituals of peace, so your nervous system remembers where home is, to stop fighting reality and instead work with it, to let go of what you do not need in real time before it buries you, to notice the beauty of small moments, because joy is not in the grand someday, but in the quiet today, to protect your peace as if it were your most sacred possession, because it is, and finally, to live so fully, so richly in the present, that worry no longer finds an empty room in which to stay. Live your days with intention. Live your moments with awareness. Live your life so completely that worry is no longer your companion, but only a faint echo of a life you once thought you had to fear. That is the true freedom. That is the quiet victory. And it begins now, in this very breath.